Alright, people have been asking about a comparison between the Omtech Polar and the Xtool P2, so that's what this video is about, just a simple look at the two of them and my thoughts about it. Now this is the Omtech Polar. Now this was the machine that I got first, and you can see this is the way it comes. It comes with a couple of rotaries that quite crude, but they do a good job once you figure out how to set them up and use them. They do work good, so I will give them that credit. You don't need to buy anything extra to, have rotary capability. But I will show you there's one minor change you have to do later. Now I did put this controller on it. I added this, so this was an extra feature that I had to pay for and add to it, which I'll go over later. I feel it's well worth it, but the Polar actually comes with a remote controlled fan, all the ductwork that you need to install it, and there's that fan, a nice big 6-inch fan, and that larger vent actually seems to keep less smoke from getting in the air in my shop, and it also keeps it quieter. Now if you look at this, it comes with a honeycomb also, which I am finding I think it's a necessity for one of these lasers, and it's because things twist and get in between the slots. Comes with a pass-through that I find useless, and you can see it's got a milliamp meter there, which I feel is a necessity in the laser also, which I'll go over later. So that's pretty much it. We'll get into a little more of it little while. They both have pull-out trays. Now this one does have paint on the inside, or powder coat on the inside of the tray that does burn off over time. So it would be nice if there was a stainless steel liner or something in there. And there's a key switch there that you can remove, plus a power switch on the back. They both have power switches on the back. Now here's the Xtool. This machine comes with slats that go in it, you can see, and I really don't like them. Look at all the buildup on them, and parts twist and get stuck between them. So there is a honeycomb panel that you can buy. I don't know, I think it's about $200 by the time I pay tax on it and stuff, but that's an adder that I'd figure in. And the cameras, we'll go over them in a second, but pretty much they do the same thing, both of these lasers. The one thing about the P2 is you have to buy accessories to pretty much use any of the advanced features. Normally it's as high, it's as tall as where my finger is there, and then that base on the bottom there that you have to add. Pretty much you do anything else is additional height. And it does have a pull-out tray also in either model, whether you use the base or the top alone. So pretty much it's about the same bed size, about the same, a little more power, but and there you can see I don't like the hose on this P2. It's a 3-inch hose. They narrowed it down, and I had to buy a fan to get the exhaust outside, and they're running a much higher speed fan, it sounds like, to push the air through that 3-inch hose, where the Omtech's a lot quieter, just pushing through that big hose. So now, software wise, for the Omtech Polar, I had to buy Lightburn, and actually I use it on all my lasers, but you can see there is a yearly subscription fee, which mine just ran out here, so I'm going to have to update that, but there is a cost for that, an adder cost for that, but yet it's a very powerful program that does more than just control the laser. It does really wonderful graphics and everything else, so definitely the way to go. And then for the Polar to use all the features, they have a Xtool Creative Space that you get for free, but it's very limited in what it can do, and it's very limited in what graphics you can create. But it will run the machine, and it's good for a starter person that doesn't really know how to run Lightburn. Now let's look at the camera. The Polar comes with this little camera that looks down on the whole bed, and it is a real pain to calibrate. For some reason, they don't give you a calibration file, and you spend hours calibrating it. The Xtool comes with a big camera up there, and also a close-up camera here, and both of them work wonderfully out of the box. No problem whatsoever. They do give you a real accurate view. Looking at the mirrors and lenses, you can see that this is all proprietary parts on the Omtech Polar, and that lens is a very expensive piece that's supposed to be replaced whole, and these mirrors are all custom mirrors, so more proprietary parts, and it does take some time if yours does not come properly aligned to get everything set up in the beginning. So you better be able to perform the alignment on either of these machines when you first get it. Just check and perform it, and plan on spending quite a bit of time. Now with the Xtool, you only have a couple mirrors to align, but they did leave plenty of, made beautiful adjustments on all the mirrors. It's all proprietary parts, but they all are easily adjustable, and it makes the mirror setup go a lot quicker, the alignment. And the thing is, once you get it aligned, it's pretty much, I haven't had a problem since running them. Now, the P2 I have very low hours on, but I will tell you the Omtech Polar I've got a couple hundred hours on, and it still hasn't gone out of a line again. And I'm going to give the P2 a lot of credit for the air assist. They did a wonderful job on the air assist on this. It's a 2-stage air assist, so you have low pressure while engraving and high pressure when cutting, and they routed the tubing beautifully, and nice pump, everything else. So it's definitely what any laser should have. So I'm very happy with that. Where on the opposite end of the spectrum, you can put the covers on the Xtool and everything else. The Polar, I've had problems with my air assist. It's the lines were kinked when it came, and I had to take the cover off. Instead of running it through that hole, I had to run around the outside for faster performance. There's a delay from the time the pump starts, and it's a very little wimpy pump with just one stage. So you can't run it for engraving and cutting at this, or you can run it, but it'll ruin your engraving if you run it at the high pressure. So I do have to do something still with a 2-stage system for this. So that's something to remember about the Polar. Now they both have buttons to get them started. And the Polar actually has a industry standard controller under that panel there that allowed me to put this control panel on here and just plug it in and run it. And I will tell you, this was really worth spending the money on. Definitely an upgrade. And I also have a USB stick there that I can load all my programs on and just run them without a computer. I run these all the time on any repeat programs right off that stick. So that's one feature I really like. You don't need to use an app or anything like you do on the Xtool. You either need a computer or use the app on a phone or tablet to run this one. Now with the Polar for the Rotary, I did have to make some little wood spacer blocks there. You can see to use it, but that's all that's required. You don't have to add any extra bases or spend any money on anything. You just pull the honeycomb out and run it. Now with the P2, you actually have to buy a Rotary that actually is really expensive, but it will do just about anything. So if you're looking to do, fancy balls or rings or something like that, something out of the ordinary, this is the way to go. And but it will cost you, and you also have to buy this riser base to be able to use it. It's useless without it. So when you look at the cost of the P2, make sure you include all the accessories you need to actually do what you want. And I'm just trying to, kind of compare what it takes to do what here. And you do have a wonderful feed through there, though, once you add that riser base, it'll allow you to, pretty much feed anything through, you can see. But you do get smoke in the air when you do that. I pretty much find the Polar feed through to be worthless. It's so small. Now the Xtool, you can put a feeder on here, conveyor feeder, and use like 10-foot pieces you can engrave on it. It works good. It does take a long time to set up, and it does take, to do a 10-foot piece, you need a 20-foot area that's straight and flat. So it does take a lot of room, and it does leak a lot of smoke out when you're using this. The airflow is, far from perfect. So you probably want to set it up outside or in a room with good airflow. So this is what it looks like set up, and you can see everything has to be set up, leveled, and gotten straight. So it does take quite a bit of time to set up and just run one or two pieces if you're not going to leave it permanently set up. And you can pretty much see both of them, looking at them, are really well lit on the inside. And, you can see what you're working on and stuff. So, they both both get a big plus for that. And there is the automatic focus beam that actually works very good on this, where the polar says it has autofocus, but it does not. I'll show you in a second. Okay, with the polar, let's turn it on and I'll show you. When you the factory says that it comes with autofocus, and it's something you could probably set up to work with light burn, but you have to keep changing numbers for different stock sizes and stuff. So finally, I just did a video. I did a ramp test, got the focus distance, the focal length, made a gauge, the correct thickness for that focal length, and now every time I run a job, I just set that gauge on it, and I use this control panel to bring the Z down to the focus point and start there. Set that as 0, and everything is good. Works perfect every time, and it's really pretty simple to me. I kind of like doing the manual focus better, but that's, you know, that's the way I feel. And once you're set, actually it should be a piece of stock under there, but you know, that's how I do the focus, and that's why I like this control panel also. Lets me focus, and then it also lets me to run the job. Let's see, I've got to run a job for my wife. She needs some more tags for the animals, so I'm just going to load it. I keep that on the USB drive here. It's one of the files. I've got a bunch on there, and I don't even have to start up a computer. I just turn on the laser, and I can go through. I can hit the frame button, I can load the job there, and then I can start burning it, which really is a you know, if you're going to be running a lot of the same parts, it's really a great feature. It makes it easy, so pretty much anybody could run it without any, you know, apps or PC or anything like that. And again, there you can see I don't have any air assist on the engraving, and the smoke does get up in the lens, and I'll show you in a second. It does build up in there. And again, the P2 kind of needs a computer or phone for anything. Now, for the polar, I was able to run a power test and get my power levels down with a milliamp output. So this is how you determine the best power to run at for laser tube life. And I've got that all set up, and I'm running under 80% power for the most part, where Xtool will not provide me with this information. They say they don't have it, but I'm sure they do, so I can't compare the power levels of these two machines. But both of them do a wonderful job on glass and acrylic. I've done, you know, night lights and glass and stuff on both of them, and they both do a wonderful job. Just that Xtool does a lot of their power ratings at 100% if you look at their software, all their cuts and stuff. Now there's that autofocus, and again, that works perfect every time also, and the close view also works good. But again, to use all these features, as far as I know, you have to use the Xtool Creative Space. It's not fully Lightburn compatible, so that seems to be a big issue with a lot of buyers, I think. Now, for curved surfaces, the only machine that'll do it is this Xtool P2. Here I've got a piece that's a maximum thickness you can do without the riser base. If you want to do anything curved, taller, thicker, you have to buy the riser base. And over here you can see pretty much just running that piece there. I've got both of these machines running now, back and forth, and the actually the Polar is a little bit quieter than the P2. And I did have to put a monitor up there because my computer's over on the side, and I've got a keyboard and mouse I put down here for setting up runs on this P2. So that's worked out good for me. And there you get an idea. You can see that lens down there. If you look down the bottom where the 3 dots are, you can see the burn section on it. I've got to clean that again. It's time to clean it, but I wanted to show you how you know, things build up in there without that low air assist. Now the P2 Xtool, every time you start the software, it checks for firmware updates and does it automatically. The Polar, I have never updated anything, any firmware, software, anything, so I don't know. It works perfect, so, you know, I'm going to say it's a much simpler machine. And like both of them, everything comes out pretty much perfect. So I ran one, now I'm just going to flip that sheet and run the other half of the sheet. And you can see Same thing, just run it right off the thing here. I don't need the PC running. And in the meantime, I've got this P2 over here. It's actually mapping out the surface. You can see that little laser there, sensor, and that measures the distance, and it picks points here to kind of map out the curve of the surface, so you can, there it is right there. It's all done, and that's what the surface actually looks like that you're going to be engraving on. And then you can just go back and use that area to put whatever you want. And again, here's another sheet finished up. Same thing, you can see, you know, CO2 lasers do a beautiful job, less burning, and I just, you know, think the quality is better than the diode lasers, but yet the diode lasers, if you do some masking stuff, will be just as good. Okay, so let's do the curved engraving. I just put a little bit of text on there, and I'm going to run it. And there we go. So you can see it follows the curvature of the wood. And I do have it set on a little bit higher power, but the speed is very limited when you're working on a curved surface. So just a little bit of text like this is going to take, you know, quite a while to do. It's going to take a half hour or so to put on there. And there's the little gauge. You can see how much of the job is done. And you know, a couple other things, the temperature of the water and stuff like that. Now the big difference is that the Polar uses all off-the-shelf type guides. You can buy and replace off-the-shelf if anything goes wrong, where the Xtool uses all proprietary movement systems. And the other thing is, I can move this with this control panel with it powered up pretty easy here. So I really like having that control panel. But see that little milliamp gauge here? That allows me to monitor the power output, make sure, you know, nothing's falling off, and get the set up the tube life for longest tube life. And there you can see the tube on this one is actually across the carriage there. So I think every laser should have a milliamp gauge, and on this one I can also keep an eye on the water level. I don't have to worry. I can just look in there every time I'm going to use it and make sure I have the proper water. With the Xtool, you basically have to take the back cover off to check that. So, you know, a lot of little differences, but, you know, basically they do the exact same thing, and the Xtool does have 5 more watts of power, so it should be more powerful, but I can't compare because I don't know the milliamps, so I'm not even going to try to. Now the Xtool, I do get some smoke. I don't know, I get some smell out of it around the edges of the cover and stuff, I think. I'm not sure why, but I think it may have something to do with that smaller 3-inch exhaust on it. Now another good option if you want to do curved surfaces is this S1 by Xtool, but you know, I've got some other videos about that. It's a much cheaper option. It's about the cost of a Polar, but it's a diode. So there it is. You can see I did this on a piece of a slab, and it's kind of soft outer wood, but I did do a deep burn, so you can see you can burn deep with these machines, and you can actually do inlays and stuff like that also. So, you know, if you're going to do any kind of a curved surface or long stock feeding, this Xtool is the way you really have to go. Well, when it comes to maintenance, repairs, fixing problems, it's up to you. You're stuck with it with these machines. There is nobody's going to come in and fix it for you, and you're going to have to wait for delays from China. But you do want to make sure you can do the maintenance and handle everything yourself, and you don't have to worry about downtime, because you know, you can run into that with these machines. Something I've heard complaints about, people buying a machine and not being able to take care of it on their own. They want somebody to do it. Well, buy another machine. Couple simple supplies. I've switched mine out to cloud ray lenses that I super glue in place now, and I bought like a dozen of them for $100 on eBay, and they seem to be working good. So it's a real cheap solution, and I super glue them in, but I do clean them all the time. I use 99% IPA and those microfiber things. And then I also do clean and grease the guides all the time. On either laser, you have to do that. For the Xtool P2, it's a much easier to replace lens. It looks like it's an industry standard. I've only had it apart and cleaned it once so far. I don't have many hours on this one, but you can see you just screw that ring out, lens pops out, clean it, put it back in. So much easier maintenance job on the lens, and probably cheaper lenses without fiddling later. Now the mirrors, they pop right out to clean also. I will give them that credit. I think they are proprietary. I haven't really seen any exactly like this, but both machines have this marking on the mirrors already. I don't know what it's from, so I'm going to say that you should probably keep extras on hand of all these items just to be safe if you have to keep the machine up. And there it is. I've cleaned the mirror, and you can see it still has that little burning in it. So I guess that's just what happens. They wear out over time. So, you know, you have to plan for downtime and waiting for support stuff on either of these machines. One is not going to be better than the other. So, you know, you do have to make sure that you can tackle all this on your own. And, you know, keep the machine constantly maintained and constantly cleaned and greased. Basically just some points to consider if you're looking at buying either one of them, and there is a giant price difference, so be sure to include all the parts and accessories when comparing that. They both do the same thing in the end, just about. The Xtool does have a lot of advanced capabilities, but it does not run on Lightburn with them. So if you're a Lightburn user, you're going to probably be headed toward the Omtech Polar, I would say. If you don't mind, if you're a beginner and you don't mind learning new software, this Xtool is definitely going to be the way to go. It's a very easy, simple to use package, but you won't be able to, you know, do as much with it. Now, the Polar does come with everything you need to get going with no additional expense. Basically, the controller was the only expense for that, so I will give it credit that way. Where the Xtool, you can spend a lot of money and add a lot of accessories and make it do, you know, a lot more things. But again, you're not going to have that Lightburn support. Now, this is the thing I've seen. I've seen 0 sales through my P2 links on Xtool, but I have seen about 100 sales through my Omtech links. About 50 of them are the Polar machines, and the other 50 are people upgrading to larger machines for about the same price. You know, these bigger packages that are more industry standard parts, easier to maintain, and also have separate chillers and stuff that really make them a cheaper package in the long run with bigger capabilities. So you can buy a 80-watt laser, a chiller, and Lightburn and a Rotary for about $4,000 minus a 5% discount. So that seems to be the way that a lot of people are going also. So here's just a couple things to think about if you're gonna, you know, buy a desktop CO2 laser. And, you know, they do come with the proprietary parts, proprietary software. You know, pretty much you have to buy Lightburn if you're going to go with the Polar. And just the service and maintenance, you have to do it yourself. No contracts, you know, not instant service. Nobody's going to come and fix them. And you also have to have good venting for it. Just those filters that you buy are not good for plastics. So just a basic overview of what I've found using them, and you know, you're going to have to make your own decision on which one is good for you and how much you want to spend. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.